We are live. Hello, everyone. It's Travis Flaherty, and I am so excited because we have Lisa Grossman back in the USA. We're back on our Google Hangouts. Hey, Lisa, how are you?
I am doing incredibly awesome. Happy holidays to you and to everyone that's watching.
Yeah, can't you tell it's a winter wonderland here in Arizona, right?
Oh, well, we have had some strange weather in Dallas, but I think today it's nice again. I haven't really been outside enough to guess, but we've had snow and 75 degrees and 21 degrees all within the last week.
Wow, you're all over the place. Well, we're in the mid-70s today. It's a beautiful day here in Phoenix, and I thought, why not go sit outside and enjoy the weather? So, how are you? You've been all over the place. You've been
I have
traveling?
been and getting ready to be gone for a while again, but, accessible by internet.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm having a wonderful holiday season, very busy, a lot going on, a lot of great stuff going on in the profession and people this time of year, goodwill toward men, peace on earth. I don't care what faith you subscribe to. Who doesn't get excited about that?
That is true. I am enjoying the holidays. It's a great time to get into the spirit of serving others.
And I agree. I just did a big hangout on servant leadership, as a matter of fact, with another group. And I think that that's what people really forget is what business we're actually in, Travis. I mean, we are in the problem-solving business. We're in the asking question business. We have to really help people clarify with specificity where they're at and what challenges they have that we might be able to help them solve. And then, of course, stay in touch with them as they go through the process because, people's timing tends to run in direct relationship to their comprehension and understanding what we do, what this model really is, how it can impact your life and the lives of others is a process. It's not an event. So, which brings us, to the fortune is in the follow-up. You ever heard that about 6 million times in your career?
Heard it a lot, and I think that is the perfect topic for today. We've been talking a lot the last few weeks about the importance and the power, number one, in texting for appointments. And Summer and I have been doing. I mean, we've been on so many appointments over the last couple of weeks. I got to tell you, I came out of GoPro, and I've been texting people like crazy. And all I've been doing is I think I'm addicted to the peppermint mocha coffees at Starbucks because I probably had about 15 in the last week and a half because we've just been going and sitting down and having cups of coffee, and you would not believe where you would, but where some of these meetings are going as far as the direction they're taking our business. And so
Well,
we've been talking a lot.
all great things that are right in front of your face usually come out of necessity. And the texting developed because in a hot market approach originally, which is where it started, in Denmark, I can't call them a used washing machine. They have a very peculiar law about calling people on the phone or visiting them in person at their places that they have an expectation of privacy. Mm-hmm. So we said, well, can you text? So can I send, what if somebody asks me? So if I send you a text saying, hey, Travis, I could really use your help, and you text me back, sure, how can I help you? I can text you anything. I can call you, or I can say, call me and we'll chat. And it was really how that came about. But what was most interesting was the first place we actually tried it was with you, sitting at in the States, other than with this Danish group, was sitting in a restaurant at a mastermind weekend up in Park City. Nobody was expecting it. We just threw it out there for grins and said for the next hour, and of course not everybody's going to respond in the next hour, but for the next 24 hours, track what your results are. And we actually used that at that moment to move product. And the numbers were insane.
They were.
And the same thing happens when you're texting people for appointments just to share with them what you're doing. And I think the reasons are obviously it's quicker. You can work through more people sending a text. Obviously, if for people that are uncomfortable calling people or bringing something up, it sort of gets them responding to you or calling you, and it makes it so much easier when somebody says, what do you do? Or tell me more about that, or how can I help you, than to call up and initiate something for a lot of people. So the barrier is reduced, and it can put a lot more people in your pipeline. But at the end of the day, because it is a process, short of the people that get your text, get your phone call, and jump up and say, oh my gosh, I don't know what it is, but it's definitely for me, you still have to be involved in moving the ball down the field and helping people arrive at whatever that decision is going to be. And I think for a lot of people, the challenge comes from the fact that they are too wrapped up or think that the ultimate decision is some reflection on them. The majority of the decisions that people make when they have all of the information about what we do is going to be no. Let me tell you that right off the bat. The majority is going to be no. But that's okay. Because people are not numbers, but it's a numbers game. And if you understand that your job is not to get somebody to say yes, it's not even to take somebody who says no, that knows what they're saying no to. And I want you to underline this. A no is acceptable when someone knows what they're saying no to. And if somebody knows what they're saying no to and says no, your job isn't to convince them into a yes. My job isn't to convince them into a yes. I want you to think about how you feel when you've made your mind up about something and somebody would try to convince you to do otherwise. But how would you feel if you made your mind up about something without having all the facts, without really understanding it, and finding out later that it was something that really, had you had all the facts, you might have said yes to and really could have made a difference in your life or changed your life. It's one thing when a ship passes by and you look at it and say, I'm thrilled that the people that said yes are doing well, making a fortune, living the life of their dreams, because it really wasn't for me. And I understood that when I said no. But how would you feel if you didn't understand it when you said no, and you saw a bunch of people all of a sudden achieving great things and great success, or if you had all the information, you feel like you might have made a different decision? Well, if you know what that feels like, or if you can imagine what that feels like, you certainly don't want to put anybody else in that position. So it's very important that you follow up with people and you spend your life asking the next question and the next question and the next question. Because many, many more people that say no to your business right now and for the immediate future will say perhaps yes to trying and ultimately becoming a consumer for your product. And even a lot of the people that even go through that process will still say no, but then you don't know who they know. And when people have a comfort level with something, even though it's not for them, they're very likely to introduce you to others who it might be for. So every time we don't really follow somebody up to see really where they're at, to know if they're a yes, I want to do this, or yes, I want to use the product, or I understand it, but I want you to follow up with me and I need more time, or no, I understand it all and it's not for me, not now, not ever, and we leave them in the vague realm of maybe, not only are you not because people can really never move on either if they don't really understand it. So I know that if you're doing a lot, I know that if everybody's using texting, Travis, they're getting a lot more people in their pipeline. Now it's important when you have a lot more people in your pipeline, there's a lot more follow-up involved, a lot more to stay on top of, but a lot more people that will ultimately be in your business, a lot more people that will buy your products if you do it, because it is a numbers. It is a numbers game.
I was talking to Chanel Marsh yesterday, and she's been a great student. She's really teachable and coachable, and she came in and she moved 22 cases of product in a 24-hour period just using your hot market system that you've introduced to the team. And she said that right away, within that first week of people using the product, she had 4 people that reached out to her that wanted to become customers. And so for her,
what happened? That's a good number, but what about the other?
And that's the key. She said that
16, 12, 18. Sorry, I can add.
That's okay. But what she said was, because of that, she kind of got into that waiting for people to come to her. And I wanted you to talk for a moment about the psychology of somebody that, even if somebody is interested, they'll avoid that conversation just because it represents change. And people are just, even at a subconscious level, they avoid change.
It's not even only that. That's part of it. But sometimes, how wrapped up in a week do you get? If I asked you right now, and I know you're on film, and I know you're on after, it's embarrassing, but how many things do you have on a list that are not earth-shattering. You know, the building isn't going to collapse tomorrow, that are calls you should have made or things you've been meaning to take care of last week. I know that I do.
Quite a few.
And I'll tell you what's even funny. Some of them are products that I need to order. You know, and I know that I need to order them. And today, I finally just bought a here's an example. I had plane tickets booked on hold because I wanted to confirm the reservations for the hotel. You know, an American lets you have a 24-hour hold. And I didn't get them done by midnight Monday night, and I meant to, and I kept, you know, all these other things to do, and of course I can do that till midnight. And I had to rebook them yesterday and purchase them. Now, a lot of times that doesn't cost you. Yesterday, it was $110 more a plane ticket, and I booked 4 of them. Now, it was a wake-up call for me, because my time is valuable, but whatever it was that kept me from making that call before midnight, because I was so busy that night to do it the next morning, for $410, I should have found the time. You know how happy I would have been if American would have called me and said, this is going to expire. Would you like to give me your credit card now and buy these tickets?
Absolutely.
But American doesn't do that because they know that they can charge me more if I don't do it myself. You know, they make it about me doing it. So I think that it's wonderful. There is a certain number of people that will always step up and come at you. That's great. But if I had it to do all over again in my career, people always say, what would you have done sooner, think bigger, faster? On that scope, it's true. There's so many things I would have done differently. But you know what I really have started to think about, Travis? Is all the money that I left on the table because I didn't do simple follow-up. People that said no, that were not people that were saying, no, I hate it, closed-minded people, which if you're busy and you've got good things going on in your business, why would you ever dig those people up? But people that were open, maybe their timing was off, that I said at the time, I really need to follow up with them in a month or two because my story will have changed, perhaps their story will have changed. And I got so busy in my business that I didn't. And you have to wonder, what if they had said yes? Or what if they had said no but introduced me to what if 10% of them had said yes and only 10% of those had gone on to build something? You know, you just don't know. So my feeling is, especially if we're dealing, let's say, at the consumer level, someone's bought your product, they're using your product, they're in network marketing. They're always going to be somebody you have a relationship with most of the time. There may be some people watching that are gung-ho salespeople that go out and talk to a lot of people they don't know to move the product. But most of the product movement in network marketing, especially to non-participants, is usually to pretty close relationships of the person who is a participant. They bought the product. They're using the product. You want their response. You know, if they say that they don't want to buy it again, that's okay because you've already sold it to them. It doesn't cost you anything. It's not going to take away the sale you've already made. But you know, you don't know if they loved it. If they say they don't want it, you know, you don't know why. There may be a lot in their feedback that you can use when you talk to someone else. You don't know their story. Maybe they didn't understand exactly how to use the product. Maybe they haven't even opened the box yet. And they need that nudge. I can't tell you how many times I've been the person who did that. And oddly enough, some of them have been really, really good products that sat here for a long time till somebody called and said to me, have you tried my product yet? You know, you said that you would, and I really want your story. They weren't pressuring me to buy more. The minute I said I hadn't used it, they figured I wasn't going to buy more. But they really wanted my opinion. They really wanted me to try it. And that phone call made me do it because I said I would. And I've gotten some really good experiences out of that with products. Some products I still use today, they've gotten some really long-term consumers, you know, consumption out of me. And a few products that I tried that really weren't exciting to me, I still, if people took the time to follow up, would give them other people that I thought might like to try the product. You know, I'm not big on sports drinks products primarily because I don't do enough sports, but I know a lot of people that do, you know, so I've been a cause of referrals. So I think that you really need to follow up and just ask people questions. You're not calling to sell anybody. You're not calling to talk anybody into anything. You're calling to have a conversation with somebody. And I want you to think about this just to put on another shoe. If I called you and asked you to help me out, buy my product, try it, give me your opinion, You don't have to become a customer long term. I've already told you that. But if you like it, I'd like you to be. And I never followed up to see if you liked it. Did you enjoy it? What did you want to do with it? What is that? How would that make you feel when you've just done me this favor? You know, you asked me to do you a favor and I've done it. Am I supposed to call you jumping up and down and saying it's the greatest thing in the whole wide world? I want to buy more. Or are you supposed to call me as you said you would when you called me in the beginning and asked me to do you the favor to follow up with me to see how I like the product, if I tried the product, if I'm using the product correctly, who else I know that might like the product? Because some people will be the one to call you, but most people won't. And how are you going to feel better or worse whether you've become a long-term customer today or not? If I call you and I follow up and I'm nice and I'm congenial, I don't try to give you a high-pitched sales pitch or anything, but just to carry on and continue the relationship that I referenced when I asked you to do me the favor in the first place. Aren't you going to feel like we have one, maybe a little less used, like I only called you to get you to buy something and never even bothered to follow up with you? So you need to stop worrying about how you think that you don't think you're going to be effective enough or capable of selling, or you're uncomfortable with bringing it up. And you need to start thinking about in terms of a relationship. Because if you bring value to people and you treat people well, they're going to help you in many ways that you can see and are easily identifiable today, and in many ways that may not show until more time has elapsed. But that's because of a relationship. If the relationship only existed long enough for you to call, ask them to help you out, and wait for them to call you back, they may question how much of a relationship is really there. Just food for thought.
Well, I like what you said about you're not calling to sell someone something. You're not, and I think a lot of people think that call is they're calling to close someone, and we're not. The objective is simply to reach out to that person, find out what they like best, and educate and inform and answer questions. And I think that may be one of the key reasons why people avoid. I know it was for me when I first started. I avoided that call because I didn't want to be rejected. I didn't really want that person to feel like I was calling and trying to close them. So what could you say for the people that are watching? What kind of questions could you give them? What are some things that you could say to start off that conversation? I think it's really important, though, that you just put the framework around the fact that it's not about calling and selling and closing. You're not calling to sell anyone anything. And if people understand
I think that people need to understand that the very best networkers ask questions, listen, tell stories, and they work and they build relationships. And I want you to think of it in terms of, when I think in terms of relationship, I never think in terms of I'm doing a presentation. I think in terms of having a conversation. So if you call somebody up and say, what's the normal thing to say to somebody? Hi, Travis, it's Lisa. I want to thank you again for helping me last week or last month or whatever it was. And I wanted to give you some time with it. I didn't want to seem like I was jumping all over you, but I'm really anxious to hear. Which product did you like best? Or what did you like best about the product? How have you been using the product? When do you take the product? Just very basic questions in a conversation that you'd have with somebody that aren't going to put them off that they would expect. And here's the real secret. If Travis's first thing to me was, Lisa, it's a cool product, but it's really not for me, I'd say, Travis, that's okay. Did you use it all, or do you have some left? I've said, well, who do you know that you can hand it to that might like it? Because if you're not going to use it, I would love it if you'd help me out and pass it along to somebody with my number. And they get it, because that's the business I'm in. I have no problem that it's not for you, because I'm not in the business of trying to get people to adopt something into their lives that doesn't work for them. I'm in the product exposure business, and I so appreciate that you were willing to try it for me and that you're helping me get exposure for my product, because that's the last thing he expects to hear. You see, the problem is not what you feel uncomfortable, that you think the other person is going to reject you and all of that. You're, in your mind, responding to all the things that when somebody does that you don't like when they call you, you don't want to be the person doing that with somebody else. So don't. Imagine you're them. You want them to feel good. Make it about them, and they will. A person in network marketing is not as good as if they'll join your business today or buy your product today. A relationship in network marketing is a supporter. Think of it this way, they're a try-sumer. It's somebody that you like, who likes you enough that they will try your product. If they like it, they'll become a consumer. If you can paint them a picture that they really, you can paint a picture for them that they can see themselves in, where they see themselves having fun and achieving some goals, no matter how modest, they can see themselves becoming a sell-sumer, where they will share the product with other people because that's simple, because it's sharing, or a share-sumer, if you will. Try-sumer, consumer, share-sumer. And if they can if they can paint a big picture for them about what this business can be beyond the retail aspects or the direct sales aspect of sharing the product, they then can maybe see themselves as a transformer, where they become a person who transforms their own life and other people's lives through the vehicle of this network marketing profession that we all love so much. But all of those are conversational things that come in communicating with somebody, focusing on them, finding out where they're at. And if you're doing your job, which is finding out where they're at and making it about them, you really shouldn't be worried about what you're going to say, because you shouldn't be talking very much. You've got all kinds of time to think about the next thing out of your mouth because you've got them talking. That's the key.
I love what you just said. Try-sumer before becoming a consumer, which ultimately leads them down the road to becoming a share-sumer. That's awesome.
Eventually they can become a transformer.
Which ultimately...
them and a bunch of Hasbro toys. And I like the words because people can see it. And my whole thing now, I've always believed it, but now everything I talk about I bring back to, can you picture yourself doing it? Can you picture yourself there? Can you picture yourself in that environment? Because people don't get what they want, they get what we don't get what we want, we get what we picture. If you're picturing uncomfortable conversations in which you are browbeating or hard selling or attempting to close people in which they are rejecting you, then you will most surely get that. But remember, they're rejecting you because you were trying to hard close, sell, etc. If you are not doing those things, you won't get that response. So really, how the call goes is totally up to you, because you initiated it and you have the power to direct it.
Yeah. You know, I like to just ask 3 simple questions. I always like to start with, what do you like? What did you like best?
Always. Never what did you think? Horrible question.
What did you like best? And it gets them just to start talking about their experience with the product. I like to ask them, following that up as they talk a little bit, do you see yourself, or could you see yourself drinking this product on a regular basis? You know, somebody said to me a long time ago that when you follow up with somebody, picture that you've got a couple of different buckets. You've got that bucket of not interested, you've got a bucket of becoming a consumer, and you've got a bucket of becoming a builder or a sharer, if you will. And your objective when you follow up is to figure out which bucket to put them in. And a lot of times, you know, they're going to need more information. And so before they even, you know, in some cases you've got to direct them to some additional information or set up an appointment to go meet with them. But when I thought about it in that perspective, and I thought, that's all I'm doing here is trying to cross them off my list and put them into one of these buckets, for some reason, Lisa, it became so much easier.
Actually, I've always believed that. I've taught it a little bit differently, but same thing. Imagine that here's the world of people, here's your company or product, and here's the yellow pages, the entire world of people that don't know about your company or product. And your job is only to connect all these people that are on the list of the world that doesn't know about it with the information and help them figure out which list they go on at the other side. They go off the list of the whole world of people that doesn't know about it, and they either go on a, yes, I'm interested in the product, no, no, yes, I want the business, yes, I want the product, no, I don't want anything, or maybe. And honestly, the only thing that really kills you when you're brand new in the business is the maybes. So I always like, if people are a maybe, rather than really following up, if you can't get them to commit to the next step, the next conference call, the next 3-way, the next piece of information, I've always said, take your maybes in your first year, the people that are really maybe, and say, is it okay if I follow up with you in a month? And then put them on a sheet to follow up with them in a month. Because no is not a problem. No is great. If somebody says no and they know what they're saying no to, you don't have to worry about them anymore.
Mhm.
You really don't. And most people are not really on that list. When they say no, they're really saying not yet, or I haven't heard enough yet, or I'm not ready yet, but we need a break. I've been through this process now, and they go on a follow-up list. And that's why you say to them, if you want to know which list they're on, you just ask them, you know, Travis, I get where you're coming from. Would it be okay with you if I stay in touch with you from time to time to tell you how I'm doing and to see what's going on in your life? And if he says yes, I have permission to follow up with him next month, and so on and such forth, until such a time as he says to me, I don't ever want you to call me again.
Yeah.
Which, if you treat people with respect and dignity, they won't. I want you to imagine that every person that you talk to, the majority of them are going to do something positive for your business the 7th time you have a conversation with them. This assumes that you treat them well enough throughout the process that they want to talk to you the 7th time. This assumes that you're following up at all, because you can't have the 7th phone call if you haven't made the 2nd one.
I'll ask them. I'll ask them. So the first question, what do you like best? Second question, could you see yourself drinking this product on a regular basis? And if they say yes, then we have a conversation about how convenient it would be to just have this show up on their doorstep once a month, and answer any questions that they might have about becoming a consumer. And then I always like to ask one more question, which is, oh, by the way, when you're drinking that product or consuming that product, would you be willing to share it with a few of your friends and family members? And if they say yes, it just makes it such an easy transition to say, listen, then you know what? We need to sit down this next week. I've got to show you what I'm up to. And that's all I do. And that leads them into the next exposure, where then I go sit down.
I'm sorry, Travis. What's great about that is, let's say that you take them through the process at that point, and they say they decide they're not interested in the business. They're going to get you referrals because they've already said they would do that. And you still have an incentive to offer a consumer. You have incentives to offer them, to get them to share, to help you find other people to try the product. So I love what you just said, because it leads somebody into the meeting, but it's not a high pressure meeting, because if they say the business is not for them, great. That's awesome, because when you said you were willing to share the product with some other people, obviously I can tell now you want to help me, and I love that. And we do have some great incentives for you to be able to get your product for free. But I didn't feel comfortable having you do that for me without at least you being aware that there was an opportunity for you from a business standpoint, because I would never want you to think that I took, that I wasn't totally honest with you so that I could get what could have been your customers, and people love you for it. And it's still such a soft, easygoing, all about them, no pressure, they get to make the decision type of situation.
I think that where a lot of beginning networkers get stuck is they think it's truly about their business and about their opportunity and about their product, and it's not. It's really about the person on the other side of the phone or the other side of the table. And even in that next appointment where we establish, if they say, yes, I'm willing to share the product, and I say, great, you know what, let's have some coffee this week and let's sit down, I don't get there early and set up a product display and have my flip charts out. When they arrive and they sit down, we go right back into the questions mode and continue to ask questions. How are you doing? How's things?
Relationship.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Such a good example there about how people forget that it's about the other person. And today more so than ever, that's true in all marketing. But people, network marketing is the original social network, and people don't realize it. Because I want you to think, Travis, is there a particular airlines that you really don't like?
I cannot
not to fly, had a bad experience on. They may be out of business today for all I know, but was there ever one?
Yeah, there's been plenty. Southwest Airlines for me is the one. I can't do the cattle call thing. For me, I've never had a good experience.
It was Northwest. Okay. I did not like Northwest, and it was interesting because they were just rude. I never found flying them to be a wonderful experience. But when I really turned off to them to the point that I would tell my husband, don't book Northwest, book American, book anybody else who flies the route, he looked at me and he said, what's wrong with Northwest? I said, I don't like them. And he said, he said to me, what, do they have planes like American, right? I said, yeah. He goes, seats are pretty much the same. I'm like, uh-huh. He said, they take off, they land, they get you there, they carry your luggage. I said, absolutely. He said, then what's the real difference? And I thought about it, and I said, they're really rude. They act like they can treat me any way they want, and I still have to buy their lousy plane tickets. Well, I can go to American and buy theirs and still get there. And that's kind of what you're saying, is if you remember that it's about the other person, you can never go wrong. I don't get mad at I don't get mad at an airlines because there was bad weather and they had to cancel my flight. That's the weather. I don't get mad if I get taken back to the gate and I have to sit on the tarmac. It's frustrating. Don't blame the airlines. I certainly don't want them flying in equipment that isn't safe. Got stuck in Las Vegas last year for 3 days at Eric's event because there was weather here in Dallas with the ice storm. Not American's fault. But they were always nice to me. So even though all these things happened, and I look back, and every time Northwest didn't leave on time or didn't get to the gate on time, they weren't any more responsible for it than American was, but they weren't nice. And because they weren't nice, to me, they're the airlines that couldn't leave on time, never got my luggage, and I don't think they made one more mistake than anybody else. But they didn't treat me well. And everything you're talking about is basically saying nicely, and he can't say this because he's your upline, I will. Guys, stop worrying about yourself so much and how you look and how you're going to be and everything else, because the other person really doesn't care. They care how you make them feel.
Okay, so as we wrap up this hangout on follow-ups, there's some people that are probably wondering, you know, part-time, full-time, how many should I be doing a day? What's the kind of the number in my mind that, you know, if I'm hitting, you know, they said at the event, 2 a day keeps the commission checks on their way. I mean, what are your thoughts about, you know, if my pipeline's full, what should I be shooting for?
Okay, first off, I don't really believe in getting off a call till you schedule the next call. Okay. Personally. You know, the next exposure. I like keeping the calendar full, and I know that when you go over that, and Eric does a lot. But here's my rule of thumb. If you're I like the 2 a day number. And I say that because it's something, and I want to go back to something we always say. That is something everybody can do. Many will choose not to. And there's nothing I can do about that. There's nothing you can do about that. There's nothing Travis can do about that other than try to inspire them to decide that they should. But 2 a day is something everybody can do. I don't think there's anybody that can't picture themselves being able to be in contact with 2 people a day no matter how busy they are. Especially with all the mechanisms we have. Oh, it's fine. It keeps it natural and alive. With all the mechanisms that we have today for communicating with people and being in touch. So I think 2 a day is what everybody can do. Now, if you're a leader, if we say that 2 a day is good, is what most people can do, and if they do anything, it's good to aspire to that. I would double it if you're a leader. Don't ever want to be, if the average person is going to do okay with 2, the above average person is going to do much better with 4. So my minimum would always be 2. What's the bare minimum? You know, Jeff Roberti used to teach when I first got started 108 years ago. Don't go to bed until you've approached, put 2 new people in the process. Even if you have to go down on the counter at midnight, do it. And it's not because you think you're going to get those guys at 7-Eleven in your business. It's because it's you getting in the habit of doing what you need to do every day so it becomes a habit. So I think the same thing is true of follow-up. Schedule appointments with people, because if you, again, it comes back to specificity. If I said, and that's why it's so much a part of Eric's training, if I say to Travis, can I, you know, what's a time that you can watch it for sure? What's a time we can follow up for sure? And he picks the time, and we confirm it. And I call him, and I'm not going to call him with pressure, but I say, you know, Travis, you got the product? You've been using the product? And he says, well, no, I haven't opened it yet. And I'm like, well, okay. But he said that he would specifically. Nobody really wants to get on the phone and say, you know, I said I would do something and didn't do it. But we do so much with vagueness that everybody's kind of doesn't really know, and people get off the phone and they didn't really commit. So I believe that we should set follow-up appointments when we do all the time and keep to them when we have them. But if you are not following up with 2 to 3 people a day and you don't have that already going on in your pipeline, then you should be making sure you're putting 2 new people a day in the pipeline. When your group gets big and you're doing calls and everything else, those numbers can go down. But when you're first starting out, you know, your initial call everybody 30-day crush, and now you're in building mode, I would want to be on the phone every day with 5 to 6 people that were not currently in my business already. Whether I was following up with three people or I was initiating contact with 3 more for a total of 6 isn't really important as long as the follow-up is happening and you're not spending all your time just throwing it against the wall waiting to see what sticks and leaving all that money on the table. But I think 5 to 6 a day of contact with people that aren't currently in your business, and the rest of the time, you know, working with your group to duplicate that process, I think is probably pretty good for part-time. But not an expert on that by any means. Whatever's comfortable for you, but I will say that whatever you think is comfortable, do just a little bit more.
It's the consistency factor that's the most important thing. It's the, you know, what's going to make you, help you go from where you are today to where it is that you want to go is, yes,
Absolutely.
the daily number's important, but it's doing it daily, not doing it Monday and then waiting until the next Thursday and then you follow up again. It's just doing those few simple things every day over a long enough period of time.
You would be amazed. You know, I learned this actually from Workout Person when I made the horrific statement in life that got me into yoga and all these things I do now about 10 years ago, and I said to somebody, I don't have the time to work out. Which don't ever say to somebody who really, because if you identify a problem, somebody will help you fix it. And he said, really, can you carve out, you know, 30, and at that time I did not have time to go running off to gyms. That was my real complaint, because you'll spend as much time getting there and getting back and in and out of clothes as you will actually working out. And I never time. He said, can you carve out 45 minutes a day if you don't have to leave the house? And I'll even let you do it in 2 20-minute increments or whatever. And I said, well, yeah. How do you say no to that? Yeah. You know, even if they're, and he did. He came up with a program for me, you know, just basically using those, you know, those ropey thingy, workout thingy things, resistant thingy, whatever they're called, resistant bands and a jump rope and the outside of my tennis shoes. That was really a good little workout program that, and I was embarrassed not to do it. And oddly enough, after about 10, 15 days, about 2 weeks, they say 21, but after about days, but after about 2 weeks, I started to feel more uncomfortable on the days I didn't do it. Like if I let the day get on and I was going, you know, I'm busy, I'll do that later. Finally, by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd go do it just because I'd make myself crazy. And I think that that's really comes back to how you picture yourself. You've got to make the thing, people tend to do whatever's more uncomfortable. You've got to become more uncomfortable when you're not doing the things that are good for you and your business than when you are.
That's strong. I love it. So ask questions, listen, tell stories, and the fortune's in the follow-up.
Without question.
I love it. Lisa, we always appreciate you. I know you're super busy. Any final thoughts
for you? I want to come visit soon.
Well, you know what? I've got this. We're waiting for you to come hang out with us in the backyard and sit by the pool.
I'll be there. I'm going to be there very soon.
Kids would love to see you. Thank you so much for being.
Hugs to all of you. Happy holidays to everybody that's watching or is watching later. Best time to plant a tree 20 years ago. Second best time to plant it today. This is the season.
Thank you, Lisa. You guys take care. We'll see you soon.